and he was doing this kind of thing, and there's some woman who was somehow assaulted, and I somehow missed it, then I'm sorry.
How do we change? What do you see as change? You're a powerful man in this business.
There has to be a comeuppance for all of this, all of the people who are part of that chain. And then we have to make it safe for people to feel that they can talk about this. And in doing that, I think that'll scare away that kind of behavior. But more than anything, you're gonna have a warning shot over the bow of anyone who would act like.
The height of his power, and that was his legend. That was his whole kind of MO.
I can't fathom what I just learned. And frankly, I'm at a loss for where to begin, because this has blown the entire case wide open. Matt Damon, yes, Matt freaking Damon, reportedly provided a secret statement in Diddy's trial.
And the people who worked for him were like, I'm coming here to make good movies. Miramax was the place, really the place that was making great stuff in the 90s. This level of criminal sexual predation is not something that I ever thought was going on. Absolutely not. I knew the story about Gwyneth from Ben because he was with her after Brad.
And now it's leaked. This is the kind of twist you'd expect in a conspiracy thriller, not real life. And the quote that's driving people crazy, "You pay with your soul." Are you kidding me? That line is not just chilling, it's straight up cinematic.
Harvey would talk to me about women that he'd had affairs with. I didn't necessarily believe them, quite honestly, because to believe them would be to believe kind of the worst of some actresses who were friends of mine.
I knew he was he was proud of that. You had to spend about 5 minutes with him to know that he was a bully, he was intimidating.
Yet the most terrifying aspect is, I believe he meant it literally. We've all watched this trial unfold piece by piece, and it's already been one of the darkest sagas to ever emerge from the celebrity world. But this elevates it to an entirely new plane.
Guys, they found underground tunnels at Diddy's homes. This was first brought up by Shadow of Ezra, where he talked about the underground tunnels in Diddy's luxurious Los Angeles mansion. It was an underwater swimming tunnel leading to a mysterious grotto, reminiscent of an ancient and modern human use of caves. Now, this is all alleged, of course, but they say that this tunnel connects to the Playboy Mansion. You guys remember that? Hugh Hefner, the guy who lived with all those women in his mansion? There's no available evidence right now. However, reports are noting that Combs mansions do have a pool with an underwater swimming tunnel. They say it's not connected to the Playboy Mansion, but there is a reason why the Playboy Mansion keeps coming up. 10 years ago, they were building underground tunnels to the Playboy Mansion for people like Jack Nicholson for his birthday. So this way, they don't have to go through the outside, but go underground in secret to the Playboy Mansion to do God knows what. You can see the sketches here of these underground tunnels being built. They were working on it, and it was supposed to connect celebrities like Jack Nicholson, Warren Beatty, Michael Jackson, just to name a few. As reported by People magazine, these underground tunnels to the Playboy Mansion were sealed off in the 1980s. The question is, do you believe that? Stay safe and be smart.
You pay with your soul. Doesn't sound like something you say about bad vibes at a party. That's a warning. That's someone who's seen things. And if Matt Damon of all people is saying that, I think we need to take a real hard look at what's been happening behind the scenes for years. This isn't just another Hollywood scandal. This is something darker. And I think this revelation changes everything we thought we knew about the case.
And what's really going to be interesting is the parade of celebrities who we expect to be mentioned and or called into that courtroom. People who we hadn't heard about prior, like Mike Myers, Austin Powers, Mike Myers. Why is he getting called? Why is he on the witness list? That'll be fascinating. And then, of course, there are the no-name, quote unquote, women who are going to have to find every ounce of courage they have to sit on that witness stand across from someone who can buy and sell their whole families, who is accused of behaving violent in the past toward both male and female adversaries or so-called friends who ticked him off. He allegedly firebombed this one rapper's car for allegedly being interested in the same woman. There are questions about whether he's potentially done worse than that to others. And these young women with no power and no money who could put him behind bars for the rest of his life have to sit there, look him in the eye and say what he did to them. Now that's going to be a very tall order. There's already been a question about whether one has bailed. They couldn't find this one witness late last week. and the prosecution wasn't sure whether she'd left, pieced out. And even if they don't piece out, will they stick by their stories on the stand? It's a very
About Diddy, about the industry, all of it. And the reality that this comes from someone like Damon, who's typically so reserved, so understated, makes it strike even harder. This isn't some tabloid regular. This is a man who's built his entire career on avoiding drama. So for him to step forward, even in private, and utter something that profound, you know something serious happened. So let's dissect this, because this leak is the kind of thing that doesn't just shake up the courtroom, it shakes up the entire conversation. According to numerous online sources, Matt Damon reportedly gave confidential testimony in Diddy's trial. And the detail that's igniting everything, that one brutal sentence: "You pay with your soul." Now, if that doesn't send chills down your spine, I don't know what will. Because, let's be honest, Damon doesn't speak like that. He's not some enigmatic, cryptic figure tossing out dramatic sound bites for attention. So the fact that this line allegedly came from him makes me think he was serious. Like deadly serious. This isn't just a poetic jab or some metaphor for toxic vibes. I think this is Damon outright saying, if you're in Diddy's circle, you don't leave unscathed. You don't leave the same. You lose something. Your morals, your peace, maybe even your identity. That's what it sounds like. And the more I reflect on it, the more I believe it's not just about Diddy. It's about an entire system of power and silence, a system Damon clearly witnessed firsthand. Think about it. Damon has been in this industry for decades. He's worked with everyone. He's attended the biggest events, the most exclusive parties, the highest echelons of Hollywood. If he felt compelled to speak out in a court of law, I think we're only scratching the surface of how deep this goes. And let's not overlook the timing. The fact that this alleged testimony was kept secret until now, that suggests someone didn't want it leaking. Because if the public heard this line when the trial began, I think it would have exploded months ago. It shifts the tone of everything. Suddenly, this isn't just about what Diddy did. It's about who he impacted, who observed, and who got drawn into the vortex. This leak adds a whole new layer of darkness to an already messy, horrifying case. It reframes the entire narrative. We're no longer just discussing actions. We're talking about consequences that haunt people deeply. And the fact that someone, like Matt Damon, is the one allegedly saying it, that tells me the damage extended far beyond the headlines. It got personal, real personal. Let's pause for a moment. You pay with your soul. What does that even mean? Because I've been mulling it over in my mind, and the more I think about it, the more unsettling it becomes. I don't think Matt Damon was just being dramatic. I think he was describing something he truly saw, something he felt, something that lingered with him long after the cameras stopped rolling and the parties ended. To me, that statement means the cost of being around Diddy isn't measured in money or status. It's measured in what you have to give up internally. Your boundaries, your morals, maybe even your sanity. This is not about losing a job or facing public embarrassment. This is about losing yourself. And I think Damon meant every word. Imagine being in rooms where everything seems glamorous on the outside, but behind closed doors, there's pressure to stay quiet, to ignore things, to go along with it. That's what this feels like. A culture where saying no gets you ostracized, and saying yes erodes who you are. And if Damon, who's never been tied to drama or gossip, is allegedly confirming that kind of environment, that speaks volumes. I think this line could be a pivotal moment in the case. Not because it proves anything legally, but because it conveys a feeling, a mood. It offers the jury, the public, everyone watching, a window into the emotional and psychological world surrounding Diddy. It's a world that's been whispered about for years, but no one dared to articulate until now. And let's be real, this trial isn't just about facts. It's about impact, tone, vibe. It's about who you trust and what feels authentic. And when someone like Damon says something this heavy, it feels true. It cuts through the noise. And I think it's going to unsettle a lot of people, especially those hoping this would all fade away. Now, I know what some are thinking. Why Matt Damon? What does he have to do with Diddy? And that's valid. They're not exactly a known pair. Damon's all Oscars and indie films. Diddy's all mogul status and music empires. On the surface, they're from different worlds. But let me clarify. Hollywood and the music industry aren't separate planets. They're just different rooms in the same haunted mansion. These circles intersect constantly. Award shows, fashion weeks, private retreats, charity galas. Damon and Diddy have almost certainly shared rooms, dinners, parties, and we all know how much happens behind closed doors in those spaces. I think Damon's presence at those events gave him insight into a side of Diddy the public never sees. But here's what makes this wild. Damon chose to testify. This isn't someone dragged into the mess by accident. I think he wanted to speak. And for someone like him, known for staying private, avoiding the spotlight when it comes to drama, that's huge. That tells me he saw something. Maybe not directly, maybe not violently, but enough to unsettle him, enough to leave a mark. Think about that. Damon has decades of experience. He's been around A-listers, directors, billionaires. He knows how to spot manipulation. He knows what gaslighting looks like. And if he felt it was important enough to share his insight in this case, that's not trivial. That's someone breaking the code of silence that's protected powerful people for far too long. And let's not forget, Hollywood has a long memory. Testifying in something this massive could cost Damon connections, projects, maybe even entire studios, but he still did it. That's what makes this so compelling. It's not just about what he said, it's about why he said it. And I think that choice alone speaks volumes. Let's be clear, this trial has been utter chaos from the start. Every week it feels like another bombshell drops. And just when you think it can't get darker, another name surfaces, another moment goes viral, another story turns your stomach. Cassie Ventura's testimony was one of the first major moments that shattered the facade. She described a relationship that wasn't just toxic, it was terrifying. She spoke of manipulation, power plays, and what it was like to live under Diddy's control for years. And I think many were stunned by her courage, but they also believed her because her story didn't sound fabricated. It sounded lived in. Then Kid Cudi came forward, and that shook the internet. He claimed that after clashing with Diddy, his car was mysteriously blown up. Let that sink in. A car explosion. That's not petty drama. That's the stuff of gangster movies. And he didn't just throw that accusation out there. He tied it to a very real fear he felt. It's the kind of detail that lingers in people's minds, planting seeds of doubt about who Diddy really is when no one's watching. And now, just when the fire was starting to die down, Matt Damon's name gets thrown into the mix. And with that quote, it's like gasoline on everything. It doesn't just add heat, it reframes the whole situation. Suddenly, this isn't just about what Diddy allegedly did to one person or another. It's about the atmosphere surrounding him, the fear, the control, the pattern. Every testimony so far has made one thing painfully clear. This isn't some isolated scandal. This is a story that's been festering in silence for years, and it's finally unraveling. Damon's statement might not be as detailed as the others, but it hits differently. It's philosophical, existential, and I think that's what makes it resonate. Because when someone says, "You pay with your soul," it doesn't just point to what happened. It points to the cost of letting it happen. It makes us question who else knew, who stayed quiet, who benefited while others suffered. And honestly, that's the question this trial is really trying to answer. Beyond the courtroom, this case is igniting a broader conversation about power dynamics, abuse, and accountability in the entertainment world. I think Damon's alleged testimony is a catalyst for change, urging others to speak out and seek justice. It's a reminder that no one is above the law, and the truth will eventually surface, no matter how powerful the person. Matt Damon's alleged testimony, "You pay with your soul," is a seismic shift in Diddy's trial. It lends weight to the allegations and could be the tipping point for a conviction. I think this leak will have far-reaching consequences, not just for Diddy, but for the entertainment industry as a whole. It's a stark reminder of the importance of integrity, accountability, and the courage to speak out against wrongdoing.